My name is Mo Gilligan, or you might also know me from what some of my handles are as Mo the Comedian. How has the internet changed comedy? It's changed comedy because the way that people consume comedy is different. People consume it through memes. People consume it now through podcasts. There's so many avenues for comedy, and it lets people who create, I say creatives in general, have different streams. You know, you got people who can purely just like do shows through podcasts and comedy shows, stories. For me, for example, I was putting out these small videos. That was a catalyst to get a tour and then a TV show, and then now I'm going on to Netflix. So plus it's bringing the world a little bit smaller than what they thought it was. You know, you can discover a great comedian from Kenya, for example, just through social media. You'd be like stumbling across, oh, cool, this guy's Kenyan, he's a comedian. Never would have heard of this guy if it weren't for Instagram. Yeah, I recently said a lot of people that come to my shows don't normally come to comedy shows because the way that like comedy's changing, you know, you got a lot of young people. When I was on the circuit, you know, I wouldn't see groups of like 4 young guys coming out to a comedy night on a Friday or a Saturday. The way that people go out now and spend their weekends is a little bit different. So yeah, I think they're not a kind of a traditional comedy audience as such, you know? And I think that's what's kind of cool about what's changing with comedy is like someone like me, the traditional way to do stand-up would have been to go Edinburgh, and then hopefully from Edinburgh you might get some, you know, some attention from media and stuff. So I haven't had to do that. I've been quite fortunate that I didn't need to go to Edinburgh. And there is this huge DIY generation now who are just going on YouTube, you know, creating their own formats, creating, you know, sitcoms and stuff. Ah, mate, the first comedy video. Oh, I know it was definitely on Facebook, possibly MySpace. I feel like you're gonna pop up this video and be like, here's the video here. When I first started putting a lot of my material, like in terms of especially the sketch stuff, I just used to mess about on social media, and that's kind of what I used to use it for. Ideas I couldn't do in stand-up. And the first one was like different types of MCs. So that was like the MC that Mrs. Drop, you know, the MC from up north and stuff. So like, yo, bro, don't try and get cheeky. You don't know me, just fleeky. Like, so there was never a goal to be like, this is gonna go global, like, it's just to have a bit of fun, yeah. So there was this thing called An Evening with Anthony Joshua, and the people that ran that, they seen my social, not I say my social, they seen some of my comedy. So I would love Mo to do some stand-up, because I was still doing stand-up. And that was my, like, wow, like, oh my gosh, like, I got a job, not through someone, like, I'll see you at this comedy night. They'd purely seen it through some of my videos, and I was like, oh, Anthony Joshua, that's huge. That was most probably the catalyst of like, okay, this is becoming a job. You know, I was always doing stand-up, but getting a job through one of my videos was like quite a big deal, yeah. My last retail job was, I was in Levi's, and I was still like making these like sketches and stuff online. So what I'd do is I'd make the sketch before I'd started work. So maybe like 1 in the afternoon, I start work at 4, and then I try and upload the sketch at like 8 o'clock. So I was doing this like every other day. The store would close, and then I'd go in the toilet and try and upload the sketch. So I had to do the cleaning at the end of the day. So I'd be like cleaning in that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I've got like, oh my God, I got 100 likes on a video. And I think it's very important, you know, like yeah, I was working in retail, and you know, sometimes people would come in and recognize you. But you need your side hustle when you're trying to fund your career as such. That's how I always trying to define it. Is like it's okay to have a little job, you know, being a waitress if you've just been off the back of a huge film, you know, because you want to fund you got to fund your career. You got to put food on the table and pay bills. So yeah, you got to let a lot of people, like, it's fine to do that. Like,
do you think there's enough support for people from less well-off backgrounds to be creative and be, or do we need more support in that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely need a lot more support. I always try to be a lot more encouraging to people who are from like less well-off backgrounds that are like, look, I was making videos on my phone in my bedroom. Like, I always try to say to people, like, try and use what's around you. But there definitely needs to be like a lot more support, like for people in like, you know, like less well-off areas, you know, in terms of helping like people get funding to go to Edinburgh and stuff. Like, that's something that I feel like needs to happen. You know, people have other stories to tell. So yeah, like there needs to be a lot more support and stuff. So when things like that get cut, you know, you always sit there and you'd be like, oh my God, that could have been the next big sitcom or the next big TV show if it didn't get cut. But at the same time, don't ever look at them as like, I need their help. But at the same time, these people in these places, like there's people with stories here, innit? So like help these people out as well, innit? It's like having a production company for me wasn't just like, it's all about me, but it's just like having, you know, if I meet someone who's got a great script and trying to develop them, and sometimes just giving out help, like, and just mentoring some people. Like sometimes people, all they need is like one meeting or just like a little bit of help or advice. So, you know, if there's a lot more outlets like this that can help people, I think that's really, really important. So it's just like, yeah, you know, you can be a YouTuber and a movie star. Why not? You know, or you can be an executive of a company. Like, it's like they say, like you can give a man a fish, innit? What's the phrase? What you give a man a fish and he'll eat fish. But if you give a man the fishing rod, you know what I mean, though, innit? You know what I mean? I didn't really know about a lot of the schemes when I was quite young. I think at the time I was just like a stand-up comic. I had a lot of friends that knew about schemes and support systems. Luckily enough now, like there's a lot more information and you can go online and find out about these things. But yeah, when I was kind of growing up, I didn't really know about these schemes. And plus, I think what kind of put me off is like, so how do I do this being like, I'm 18? How do I apply for a grant? Like, I'm not going to get a grant. Like, why would you give me £1,000? So I think it's just like sometimes giving people a little bit more information about how they can do these things, and just so it kind of sounds like in English. Do you know what I mean? Telling me like, yeah, you got to get the 215 form for the 568, then you got to go to your local council and get the 894 form. I'm like, do you know what? I can't get this form because I can't catch a bus. So you know what I mean? So I think a lot of these things need to just kind of like be in English and just be like help people just find this information out. You know, you look at the people in power, they're not older people, you know, you've got younger people, but then they kind of filter down of like, who's the young entrepreneur guy that we've got to talk to? Do you know what I mean? And then he becomes a spokesperson for everyone young. So I think hopefully now it will start changing in terms of, you know, listen to these young voices, you know, when it comes to, you know, some of these like campaigns they do and stuff, you know, like you hear them talking about like trying to make memes and stuff like that. Like, oh, you go to the people for that, to the young people for that, but there's a lot more that young people are good for than just like, so we need memes, let's get a young person on. Do you know what I mean? It can't just be like, what are young people watching? We're going to bring in some 14-year-olds. It's like, you can't just use them when you want and then throw them away when you don't need them. You know what I mean?